are here for you and me. Keep Hawaiian lands in Hawaiian hands, yeah. Keep Hawaiian lands in Hawaiian hands, yeah.
Put our ku'e signs down and their legacy. Aloha. 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 E kalahui e kalahui e haawi I ke aku I ka mai ena e ho'o mana'o I ka mole o nā kupuna a e pili e nā lokahi puana ia mai puana ia mai puana ia mai e kalahui e kalahui e haawi ke aku I ka mai ena e ho'o mana'o I ka mole o nā kupuna a e pili e nā lokahi puana ia mai puana ia mai puana ia mai e kalahui e kalahui e haawi ke aku I ka mai ena e ho'o mana'o I ka mole o nā kupuna a e pili e nā lokahi puana ia mai puana ia mai puana ia mai e ho mai imi e ho mai na au e ho mai kupuna e ho mai e ho mai e ho mai ke lei mai lau o ka ula I ke kai o ka malama o ni hau a mali a mali pa ka inu waila ke inu mai lana hale o nawe I ke kai no nawe ka hala no puna ka wahine no ka lua no I kilawea ke lei mai lau o ka ula I ke kai o ka malama o ni hau ua mali a mali pa ka inu waila ke inu mai lana hale o nawe I ke kai no nawe ka hala no puna ka wahine no ka lua no I kilawea aloha kupuna.
You are familiar actually with First Iolani Palace. So you've actually been to the palace?
Come closer.
You have not been to the palace? How many of you are familiar with Hawaiian history? What part? The part you learned in high school, which is probably wrong. Well, the more recent stuff, which is right. You know. I wanted to take you actually on a little bit of a tour. You got 5 minutes? This is a grounds tour. I wanted to walk around and show you some things about this place that are significant that you probably wouldn't know because nobody would tell you. We're standing here on this area called Palace Square. The palace sits in the middle, right? And the whole area is quadrants, 4 of them. We're in what's called the Diamond Head Makai quadrant. Towards the ocean, towards Diamond Head. That over there is the Ewa Makai. Got that, right? So that side is Mauka. What's significant about this quadrant and what I guess people don't really talk about is this whole area is a burial ground. You are on, good morning, you're on a burial ground. And so you should treat this place accordingly. And inside that area that's surrounded by the little wall and the tea leaf plants is Pohokaina. And our ancestors, collective ancestors, are buried in there. I think there are 31 people. And we know who's in there. We don't know who's related to who because we don't know who you are. But the reality is that the more that you hear names of ancestors of Kupuna, the more you're going to relate. In 1893, when we were taken, the Queen could see the Boston, the USS Boston, from the 2nd floor. That tells you that behind this building here, was the harbor. All the rest of that stuff was built up, right? And buildings were placed on it. But she could see them, and their guns were pointing over here. And her comment was, why are they pointing their guns at us? Well, history moves along and we kind of know why the guns were pointing at us. In the basement, which you can't see from here, we may not actually want to walk there, it takes forever. When you're walking to the front steps, if you're walking around the palace, I want you to look down at the bottom step. What you're going to see are a series of stars, little holes that are shaped like stars that are in the basement, in the bottom step. Those were the places where the rifles were sticking through and the people who were guards at the palace tried to defend the palace. I mean, that's how they did it. So this whole area is very historic. It's full of symbols, and it's full of evidence of our history, which is not what you may have learned in high school. I certainly did learn that history in high school. So in 1893, overthrow in 1897, the Queen was in Washington, D.C. She was writing back and forth to the men and women who supported her, the Hui Aloha Aina, which Kamahana well knows about. And when she was writing, she asked them to get the people together, asked them to sign a petition and say, we don't want to be part of the United States. We protest annexation. She said, can you guys do that? And within a very short time, months, the people are here, men and women, went to all the islands and collected signatures. 2 petitions went out. One of them had some 21,000 signatures on it. These signs are names of some of the people who signed those petitions. Every Hawaiian person today, everyone of Hawaiian blood, and a lot of people who are not of Hawaiian blood, is related to somebody who signed. What's going to happen when you look at these signs and you put them in the ground is you're going to recognize those names. Your name. You're going to see your name. That's a good thing. That tells you that your ancestors did not stand by and say, yeah, go. We don't care. What they said was, no way. We don't want to be part of them. Because if we are part of them, we will lose our land. So that's what you're here to do, is to help us lay out those signs. At 1:30 p.m., inside that building called Kana'ina, which is right behind you, the old archives building, we are doing a drama, a reenactment of something that happened in 1897. Please join us for that too. There's no fee, but you want to come a little early so you don't have to stand. It's generally standing room only. So come at 1, we start at 1:30.
We have one more performance represents the Kumawang, the symbolism of the Kumawang used back in the day of the ancestors was to water Waha from the mountain to the ocean or half mountain for you, and as we all this Waha half out for you down to the ocean, or ancestors, we call it chant. That's to show that people in the studio are ready to use it as a way of putting all our people together. We come together in one area, one body and one mind. And we can move together in a talk for the perpetuation of our culture and our people.
So two petitions, one by the Hui Aloha for around 21,000 names signed, and another petition by the Hui Kalai Aina with about 17,000 names signed. Those two petitions went to DC. One of them got lost. The smaller petition, nobody ever found it, to my knowledge. But the other petition was found, I think 1995 or 1996, correct me if I'm wrong. And those petitions were found by Noenoe Silva when she was writing her dissertation on resistance to the takeover. Because up until then, everybody was taught in school, if you're as old as I am and you went to school, you didn't know there was an overthrow. You didn't know anything. You thought Hawaii loved it, and we were all happy to go over there. That was not true. Somebody else was already writing our history back then. And so when she brought those petitions home, she told us a story about what happened when the women and the men went around collecting these signature petitions on all the neighbor islands. So what we're going to do today is give you an excerpt of one meeting on one island at one church. And that was the Salvation Army Hall in Hilo. And in order for us to do that, you have to know what happened at that meeting. Too many people, not enough room, people standing outside, hanging in the windows, hanging in the door, trying to figure out how can they hear? They sent representatives in so someone can speak for them, right? That's you guys. So when we do our reenactment, we have a cast, we have a newspaper reporter who was here from the San Francisco Call, who happened to be at this meeting, which was in Hawaiian. And she was sitting next to a woman who translated for her everything that was being said. And she took notes. And we had Mrs. Nawahian, we had Mrs. Hilani Campbell, and we had a minister who's around here somewhere. And we had people in the audience who spoke. And I know I have a number of volunteers who want to be those people in the audience who spoke. And I saw a hand back there. Where is he? So what I'm saying is, I could ask you, or you could volunteer. All right. I need a pen. Pen. Okay. What does the actor do? The actor says 1 or 2 lines. P. Lani? Thank you. Oh, we usually have somebody start it off so people don't get nervous. Don't be nervous. Maria, can you ask P. Lani, she's going to be number 1, speaker number 1.
Are you going to be speaker number 1?
Yes. Okay, so we have speaker number 1. Speaker number 2. It'd be a man or a woman. Did I see a volunteer? Yes, right there. Okay, you are speaker number 2. This is going to take a couple minutes, but we're all on page 11. What's your name? There you are. You're number 2.
Number 2, 1 line only.
Well, whatever it says for number 2. Okay, I need somebody to be number 3.
Oh, gee, yeah.
3?
My number.
Okay. Well, just go male, female. Okay, number 3. Your name is what, Dan?
Kyoki.
Kyoki. There you go.
That's all. Oh, come on, sorry.
I have number 5 behind me in that.
Huh?
We got number 4.
Number 5 is back there?
Number 5. We're going to share paper.
No, it's okay. You want to read it. What's number 5's name?
Alex.
Say again.
Alex.
Who's number 4?
Oh, yeah. No, it's Jaden. Jaden.
Yeah.
Wait. Some people really are women, so they gotta be women. Here's for speaker number 5. Right there. Speaker number 4. Who's 4? We have 4 or 5. Speaker number 6.
We got a volunteer over here.
Okay, wait, let me see if that person is a male or a female. Okay, who is it? Number 7. Let's be a guy. Number 7, can you be a guy? Yes, 7 is a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I will.
However you want to see your name. This is Kalawa. Or Kalawa. Kalawa is in suicide, yeah? You got it. Kohi or Kohi or Kalawa. Thank you. Number 8. Are we on 8?
Aye.
Okay, number 8.
Flag.
Okay. Alrighty. Number 9. Where do you come from? Where's your family come from? Who has family from Molokai? I'm just asking. Anybody?
Right there.
Bye.
There should be someone who has family from Molokai. It's yours.
Tomorrow.
It's number 9, right? And then number 10. Okay, number 10 is going to have the job of not only saying his thing. Who sings?
Jeremiah. Kamulukai ni si.
Who can sing Hawaii Pono'i?
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah.
I'll go get it.
Okay, number 10 is a male carrier who can sing. And then right after that, I'm just telling you the order of things. Right after that, when the audience is finished singing Hawaii Pono'i, someone is going to chant Iku Mauma, the first one. And then we'll just pick it up and let it go around. It doesn't matter who. When you feel the urge, do it. Okay, so we need number 10, speaker number 10. And if we don't find one, we'll just disappoint someone. Yeah? What a surprise. Okay. So we're going to be doing a number of things right now. I'm going to introduce Dr. Willie Kauai, who is right here.
I'm going a cappella.
And he's not ready.
He's going to talk.
And the reason he's not ready is because the projector is not working. Yeah? So what happens when your equipment fails? You wing it. You wing it because you have no choice. So I'll just leave that to you. You know, we're troopers, basically. If you can't do it, somebody in the audience can. The reality is that we know a lot, and we can all share, but I'm sure we can handle. Do you guys all have a program? No. Where's our program? We actually have a program. That tells you who's playing what part and who the different people are. Okay, so we didn't even really start yet, right? I'm just prepping you. Some of you sat on a chair that had a lei on it. And if you did, please use that lei to welcome our guests. When they come in, this is Emma Navahi is going to join us at this meeting. And Mrs. Kauai Campbell will be coming in as well. And you should greet them. Because if you were your ancestors, you would have. I mean, that's the reality. So we are them. And we step into that place. And also, those of you who have a script, I say this sometimes, even though I think people think I'm crazy. I'm not, really. Experience tells me it works. You open your mouth, your ancestors will speak. They have been waiting to speak. Well, this is their chance. You know what they said, because they actually said this stuff. It was written up in a newspaper article in the San Francisco Call. It was written in 1897, published. That article was sent back here to Hawaii. It was translated into Hawaiian, and then it was published in Hawaii. So we didn't really make any of this stuff up. This is history. What we're doing is a reenactment. We're going to do something that has happened already, so we're like the second iteration of it. And then after we're all done, those of you who have a script, you should consider taking that script with you and doing it. Do it yourself. Take it to your family reunion, take it to your school, take it to your class if you're a teacher, and do it. The impact you feel, and you're going to feel some, it's the same one. It's always the same. It is never any less because it's something that happened. We don't have to make it up. We just have to bring it up. We don't have to make it up. It's not made up. Okie dokie. When you're ready is when I'm ready. Otherwise, I'm just kind of like, you know.
Yeah.
All right. So, is anybody like not clear about what's going to be happening?
You still gotta find somebody to sing.
Sean.
Okay, never mind. Somebody will sing. We're going to sing Hawaii Pono'i afterwards, and even if no one steps forward, we already know that song. We'll just sing it. Willie is going to give us a kind of, provide some context for what we're going to be seeing, because some people are unaware of Hawaii's history. So he's going to give us a kind of a brief intro minus PowerPoint, which would have made it so much easier. But you know, troopers actually rise to the occasion. Right? Just do it anyway. Okay, so Willie will do that, and when Willie is done, we're going to go right into this reenactment. Something is going to happen when the people are speaking, and you should join in if you agree. You should say, "Polole," that is correct. or Aole? No way. You'll know when the time comes, because you will hear it. Okay, having said all of that, and people want to come in and sit anywhere, you're welcome to do so, and I will sit over there and give it over to Ali. Thank you. Give him a hand. He didn't do it yet, but he will.
Aloha, thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. My name is Willie Kawai. I come from the island of Maui. My family is from the Makena and Upalakua areas. Usually the person who does this is Dr. Keanu Sai. At the moment, he is out of the country, and so he asked me to step into his shoes. This is the second time that I've done this. The first time was actually right here in this room. Keanu had actually left the country again at the same time. What I am trying to do, the intent of this portion of the reenactment is to give you some context, political and legal context, right? Why is it that the Salvation Army, filled with 300 people, two women giving political speeches, what are they fighting for, right? What is their purpose for giving these eloquent speeches? And they're fighting for their country at that time. A time when their country is under siege. So I'll take maybe about 15, 20 minutes just to give you a quick kind of glance at the political and legal history of Hawaii. This is a history that unfortunately many of us don't know. Result of the occupation, education changed. Many of us learn a different kind of history, American history. What is important, however, is to look at our own history, right? To look at the accomplishments, to look at the struggle, but also to look at the importance, right? Because that history in the 19th century is not just important for historical purposes, right? It has real implications today, especially when we get into the legal and political aspects of it. So the Hawaiian Kingdom, it was a country, right? In 1842, Kauikeuli Kamehameha III, in Privy Council, he sends 3 envoys across the globe to go to Belgium, to go to France, to go to Great Britain, and the United States, with the sole purpose of achieving one goal, to become internationally recognized. At the time in the Pacific, there's gunboat diplomacy, right? The French are aiming their guns at Tahiti. Colonialism happens there. In 1840, Great Britain is threatening the autonomy of New Zealand, Aotearoa. Hawaiian independence, seeking international recognition, sending these envoys out in the world to seek recognition, gain independence, is about protection. It's about preservation, to preserve Hawaiian sovereignty. After a 2-year journey around the world, news comes back that France and Great Britain have entered into a declaration that recognizes Hawaiian independence. From 1844 all the way until the more crucial times of the overthrow, for a period of 50 years, La'aku'okoa was celebrated, Hawaiian Independence Day. When Hawaii becomes independent in 1843, they become the first non-European nation in the world to be recognized as an independent state. This is something that I think only in recent years we've started to figure out the magnitude, the gravity of something that powerful. Right? First non-European nation in the world to be recognized as an independent state. That means that in order to get into that club that was called the Family of Nations, which was full of Europeans, they needed to be strategic. They needed to be diplomatic. how do we get our brown country into this all-white club? Yeah? You're not doing it through force. You're not doing it through power. You're doing it through diplomacy. But Hawaiian independence in 1843 was very much about preservation and protection. To protect the territory, to protect the country. When you also think about it a little more, because Hawaii becomes recognized in 1843, they are now subject to the laws of international law. Interesting note about that is that, in a sense, the Hawaiian Kingdom kind of breaks the color barrier when we talk about international law. You don't see another non-European country gain that kind of status until much later into the 19th century. So it's a very important aspect in building a country. What you also have in and around that time is transformation of the government. The government goes from an absolute monarchy to a constitutional system. Absolute system, you had basically all the executive branch, the judicial branch, the legislative branch, all locked into one or two people, three people. The transition from absolutism to constitutionalism, now you have a separation of powers. Now there's an executive branch with a privy council, with a cabinet. Now you have a legislature, which you have a House of Nobles, a House of Representatives, and you also have a judicial system with the Hawaiian Supreme Court and all the lower courts as well too. These ideas of institutions are also very important because, believe it or not, they're actually still here today. They're hidden in plain sight. The judiciary that we know of today, that the state of Hawaii claims, I don't need to really go into that, but Department of Education, the police department, the fire department. All of these are institutions that were born in and around the time in which the constitutional system was created. For 50 years, the Hawaiian Kingdom engaged in international diplomacy. We were in the middle of the Pacific. We were in the middle of the new and the old worlds. By the time the 1890s come around, the Hawaiian Kingdom has upwards to 90 legations spread out throughout the world. 90 consulates and legations spread out throughout the world. That means there were 90 Hawaiian diplomats stationed in every single country, and even more, even the bigger countries, there is even 4 or 5 Hawaiian diplomats in different cities in a particular country. So you start to see kind of the international character of this place called the Hawaiian Kingdom. When you look at the population, the Hawaiian citizenry, right? Who comprised the Hawaiian national population? It wasn't just one race or one ethnic group. You had a multi-ethnic population. You had Chinese that were Hawaiian nationals. You had Japanese that were Hawaiian nationals. You had Portuguese that were Hawaiian nationals. To give you kind of a feel or a sense of how inclusive Hawaiian citizenship laws were in the 19th century, you even had a number of former slaves that were coming from the American South, escaping the grips of slavery, finding their way to the shores of Hawaii, naturalizing, and becoming Hawaiian. Anthony Allen is considered the first black man to arrive in Hawaii. He naturalizes, he's a former slave, he naturalizes, becomes a Hawaiian, and he ends up owning 6 beachfront acres in Waikiki. He owns a number of businesses. Right? This gives you an idea of how different Hawaiian society was compared to American society at the time, when you start to look at some of their policies, like citizenship. The Chinese, another great example that gets us to think about what kind of society, what kind of country we're talking about. Chinese, many of them came to work in the plantations. A story that you often don't hear is the number of Chinese that walked out of the sugarcane plantations and fields, and into the kind of economic center or hub of the Hawaiian Kingdom. By the time the 1890s come around, the Chinese have the most business licenses in the kingdom. Compared to America, they're still dealing with Chinese exclusion laws, Chinese exclusion acts. So very progressive. In 1887, you have a bayonet constitution. A constitution that was never ratified. A constitution that the king at the time is forced to sign at the point of a bayonet. You start to see a huli within the laws. Right? The bayonet constitution was actually never ratified. It was never legal, but it did have political force. You start to see a lot of changes take place in society. Now a particular ethnic group that was a part of the kingdom is now becoming powerful. Right? You have a small white minority that is starting to push up against the political control that the Aboriginal population had, or the control that the other ethnic groups had, such as the Chinese. For that 50-year period, the Aboriginal population comprised the majority of the people in the legislature. They were making those laws. They had control of the country. 1887, you start to see a flip. What is important about 1887, though, is not necessarily what that white minority is doing at the time, but the way in which you see interethnic alliances start to form and take place under the banner of Hawaiian nationality. You start to see the Aboriginal population starts to talk with the Japanese population. The Japanese and the Aboriginal population start to mobilize with the Chinese population to push back against these insurgents. And for the most part, they're very successful. By the time 1893 comes around, that white minority that tried to gain power of the country, they're all but politically bankrupt. The only way in which they can survive, the only way in which this white minority can avoid prison, prosecution, is by calling on the assistance of the U.S. representative stationed here in Hawaii. Without that, if Minister Stevens would have never intervened in the domestic affairs of the country, the ship would have been righted. The Queen was about to promulgate a new constitution. In that constitution, she was going to basically annul everything that had taken place in the 1887 constitution, restore the country back to 1864. However, she was never able to do that. January 16th, 150 Marines are landed by the order of the U.S. representative, marking the first occupation of the Hawaiian Kingdom, the first illegal occupation of the Hawaiian Kingdom. This spurs or motivates, when this news gets back that Marines have landed in a foreign country, this instigates an investigation. James Blunt comes to Hawaii, spends about 4 or 5 months doing investigations. James Blunt is a special commissioner assigned by Cleveland to figure out, why did the United States land troops? Why are they here? He compiles a report that's more than 1,000 pages long. Today, by far, that is the most comprehensive account of what took place in 1893. He gives a very well-detailed account of the events leading up to 1893 and all the events thereafter. That Blunt report is what kind of motivates President Cleveland at the time to seek some kind of agreement with the Queen. They go through a number of communications throughout almost 4 months. Cleveland agrees to restore the Queen back to the throne. He agrees to restore the constitutional monarchy if the Queen is willing to grant amnesty to the insurgents or the traitors. The insurgents and the traitors are now facing criminal charges. Right? You look at the civil code, the penal code in the Hawaiian Kingdom, what those people were facing for doing what they were doing was death and the confiscation of all of their property. That agreement that Cleveland and Liliuokalani get into, it's never brought forward. You have a change of administration in the United States. Now you have a new president that comes in. A president that is bent on pushing America's borders way out into the Pacific and beyond, irregardless of the international violations that might cause. President McKinley comes into office, and at that time you have this new kind of effort within the US Congress to pass a treaty of annexation. All these conspirators that have gained control of the provisional government into the Republic of Hawaii, they're seeking Hawaii to become a part of the United States. Like Dr. Cruz had mentioned, that was stopped, right? Because of the political mobilization of the Hawaiian national population, right? Because people like Ku'aihelani Campbell and Aima Navahi traveled across all the islands in a circuit to gather petitions, to talk story about what Hawaiian nationals felt about being annexed to the United States. And again, remember, we're talking about a multi-ethnic population at the time. It wasn't just the Aboriginal population that was signing that treaty. You had ethnic Chinese, ethnic Japanese, ethnic Portuguese. You even had resident aliens that were signing those anti-annexation petitions. Even on the US continent, you had a growing wave of Americans that were asking the question, why are we wanting to annex a country that doesn't want to be annexed? So there is a circuit, right? There's a traveling circuit that's going around these islands, collecting signatures, collecting feelings, right, about wanting to stay independent. What you see in Miriam Michelson's piece, in the San Francisco Call, I think is a very important moment in Hawaii's history, a moment that we need to remember, a moment that we have to recall, where an American reporter comes to Hawaii, witnesses a town hall meeting. And in her reports, one of the things that she notes is how surprised, I guess you might say, or how kind of astonished she was that there was 2 Hawaiian women up on a stage in front of hundreds of people giving a political speech. 2 Hawaiian women that were also talking to men who were also in the audience. Miriam Michelson couldn't believe that women in the Hawaiian Kingdom had that kind of political prowess, right? That they were allowed to talk about politics, that they were allowed to give these types of speeches. I think that you'll see within this play that, like I had mentioned, this is a very, I think, reflective piece, not only for the times, but for the entire evolution of the Hawaiian Kingdom up until that moment. It gives you a very powerful indication of how passionate, of how passionate they were about their country, and how serious they took the matter. And I will end there and introduce the Queen's play, the Queen's Women. Kalamai.
That was like the shortest intro piece we have ever had, yeah? I'm not saying it's not good. I think it was pretty good because you touched on all of the important parts. For people who have no understanding of Hawaiian history, hopefully you have some sense of what was going on, because what you're going to see is a slice of life. It's a photograph of something that actually happened. And that's why it's a reenactment. We need to have your chair so you can sit on this, because those chairs belong in the as part of the set. So we have Ms. Mickelson and the translator, and Kat, do we have programs for the folks? Okay, someplace. Oops. We need lights. Okay. I'm just talking to while they're doing whatever they gotta do. We're going to be handing out later on, not to anyone, but whoever holds up their hand, we're going to hand out copies of the petition book pages. The book itself is outside. And we just randomly chose some pages that are going to be held up by Mrs. Campbell. And then if you want one, you should put your hand up and they'll distribute it to you. Oh, pass the program back, I guess. So whoever doesn't have a program, they are there. Okay.
I can stand over there.
Do you need a script?
Yeah, make sure I don't fall asleep. Huh?
No sleeping. Okay, and then here's your Bible. Okay. The thing I should say is that, oh, Darren, come. You should do it too, but let me give this instruction. We are not professionals by a long shot. Maybe you could tell. But then that was not ever our call to become professionals. Our call is really to deliver information. This is information that we have, all of us, done a ton of research on, and we can vouch for it. And what we wanted to do is to share it with you in a way that is not so much a classroom style, but more experiential. And Baron Ching, who is the flag guy, also wants to share some information about Joseph Navahi and his relationship with the Queen. Let me turn it over to him.
Talk
You.
about your relationship with the Queen.
My relationship with
No, I didn't say that, Henry. Joseph Navahi, the chant.
Oh, Chan, you want to do it now?
Now.
Aloha ke ala, no kula hui o iwi, ni ho'okani huai, huha me ka lokai, huili mai a loko, e aloha I ka ina, aliu I ka me amana, a e ola no kalahui, a e ola no kalahui. This one is called Kealoha Aina. It was written by Queen Liliuokalani on the death of Joseph Navahi. What happened was that at the original staging of the play, during the rehearsals, somebody mentioned that, oh yeah, they had this dream and we thought, wow, this is a really cool million, but we really should do this. Somebody else actually in the cast said, yeah, I had a dream myself. And this is a really cool million. It's not the same million. It's called Kealoha Aina. And again, it was written on the death of Joseph Navahi. And we know it's about Joseph Navahi because the name of the speaker that he published was Kealoha Aina. And so we've been trying to do this when we can for the show. The name of the event is Kealoha Aina by Queen Liliuokalani.
Thank you. This is kind of a reminder that Hawaiians really don't know that we have a lot of heroes of our own. People stepping out, people taking risks, people putting themselves at risk in their jobs and their families, and Joseph Navahi was one. And James Kaulia was another, and where are you? Okay, so yes, we wanted to talk a little bit about James Kaulia, but we'll do that later. Let me first of all just say that who's up front, and then you guys can talk later. We have Miss Miriam Mickelson, who's the only white person actually in our group, because she is Miss Miriam Mickelson, who was a reporter for the San Francisco Call, who happened to be traveling in Hawaii at the time and had the good fortune to attend a meeting in the Salvation Army Hall. Even though she didn't know what the hell was going on because everybody was speaking in Hawaiian, she had a translator sitting right next to her. Just stepped into the role, we're so lucky. And the translator tells her what's going on. She takes, notes, and then later on her way back to San Francisco, actually writes the article, which appears on the front page of the Call later when they get there. And then on this side we have our minister, Filippo Souza, and then Mrs. Nawahine and Mrs. Campbell, representing the Hui Aloha Aina Nawahine, will be entering soon. So I want to say about Miss Mickelson. She has a history too, by the way. Everybody has a history. And I don't mean Kat, the person who's playing her, but I mean Miss Mickelson herself was an interesting person. And we have tried to do research on everyone that we could get names for. Anyway, Miss Mickelson wrote this article on September 22, 1897 on the deck of the passenger ship, the Australia, on her way home to San Francisco.
The strongest memory I have of these islands is the meeting house of the Salvation Army in Hilo on the island of Hawaii. It was a small, crude place, enough for 300 people, I believe. Bare rafters could be seen overhead, and the bare walls were improved with biblical teachings in English and Hawaiian. Don't boast about yourself for tomorrow. Without Christ, there is no salvation. As I entered, the bell of a foreign church standing atop a beautiful bluff of Hilo rang 10 times. This place is filled with Hawaiian people, and outside, a crowd of people who could not come inside were standing patiently. This was a meeting conducted by the women. Nevertheless, several groups of men had come there. The women wore Mother Hubbard dresses of calico or cloth and wore white and black sailor hats. The men were dressed in coats and pants made like those of the Americans. Then the multitude of people separated, and 2 tall women entered who were dressed in black clothing. They wore black kid gloves with black hats that were decorated with black feathers. The slightly taller of the 2 had the noble and dignified demeanor of a queen. Red roses encircled the top of her hat, and lying upon her neck and breast was a lei expertly made from some flowers which were woven with palapalai. She was Mrs. Kuai Helani Campbell, the president of Hui Aloha Aina, Ona Wahine. Her companion was the secretary of the group's branch in Hilo, Mrs. Emma Nawahi. There are 100,000 people on these islands. Of these, not 3% have declared for annexation. To the natives, the loss of nationality is hateful, aberrant. It is the old battle, white man against the brown, might against right, strength against weakness, power and intellect and art against docility, inertia, and simplicity. A man suffering from an acute attack of annexation mania said to me, I tell the natives that work for me, you might as well walk out into the sea and attempt to push out the incoming wave with your 2 uplifted hands as to try to prevent what's coming. It's purely a question of conquest, I admit. We're stronger and we'll win. It's a survival of the fittest. He was a tall man, majestic, handsome-faced, 3/4 haole, as they say here. His hands were gripped tightly in front of him, and he looked down upon the heads bowed before him and gave a few short words of prayer before the opening.
Velina, welcome. Holy Kako, let us pray. O nani ka ino, o ka mako aku. Me ka mahalo nui, e ho'i kipa a ine.
There is something
Okay,
impressive in
yala.
strong prayers spoken in an
Oi,
unfamiliar
kipa.
language. You do not hear the words,
Ya,
but
mau.
tones. He was appealing with his feelings, not his reason.
Me ka,
And then the voice of the minister ended.
e maoloa. No, God's people say, Amen.
And the audience responded,
Velina Kako, welcome. Velina Kaua, Emma Aina ke ia, Mrs. Iosepa, Navahi.
I watched Mrs. Nawahi with curiosity when she stood and spoke to the people. I have never heard two women speak to the multitudes like this. Would this Hawaiian woman be embarrassed, timid, or self-conscious? None of these things. Her candid manner was like Charlotte Perkins Stetson's 2 years ago, the most interesting speaker at the Women's Congress. The thought of the Hawaiian woman were of her subject, not of herself. There was something pleasing in her manner of speaking which compelled me to look at her while the person who translated for me by my side, whispered her translation to me all the time the words were being spoken.
He la hui kanakana wali wali kako, ka la hui Hawaii. A ole hoi o ko kako I kaika, koi wale no ko kako lo kahilike. We are a weak nation of people, we Hawaiians. And we have no power unless we are united. O Amerika, hui po ia he aina ku o ko aia. O na kanaka o Leila, he maupo aloha. He maupo aloha po'i. No ka la hui na wali wali. The United States of America is an independent land. And the people there are friends. They are friends indeed of weak nations. E ho ike aku kako ya lako. E ho oma ike. Aku kako ya lako. E liki me ko lako aloha I ko lako aina. A awamo ina eha mamua o kahaawi anaku. Pela no ko kako aloha I ko kako aina. A e nonoi aku. A ole lako. E lawe mai ya kako aku. We will show them. We will make them understand that just as they love their land and would endure suffering before giving it up, so do we love our land, and we pray that they do not take it from us.
Eo!
O ko kako manaolana, elia, ke kune, me ke kupa'a, he po'ohiwi me he po'ohiwi, he pu'uai me ka pu'uai. Here is our hope, standing shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart. O ka leo na kanaka, o ka leo noia o ke apua. The voice of the people is the voice of God.
Eo!
E oia
Ole!
e lohe ana ka aina ma ke la au o ka moana I ko kako leo ualo. E wawalo he lea kuai a lohe lako. Surely the country on that side of the ocean hears our call for help. By joining our voices to cry for help, they will hear. Ma ke ia palapala kakawino ana mai I ki ala. O oe e na wahine o Hawaii. Ua loa'a ia oe ke wā e no'o oe. Upon this petition of ours that we are submitting for your signatures today, you, the women of Hawaii, have a chance to express your thoughts.
Hey.
Ai, o ka palapala o na kane o ho'una ia ana mai no ia e ka hui o na kane I ka wā e pauai I kakau inoa ia. The men's petitions will be sent on by the men's group as soon as the signing of the names by the men of Honolulu is completed. A ole ke ia he mauhana epa. A ole ko I he ho'opuni puni. Ma ko kako wā, ala he leo ka hana. O ke ia waleno, ko kākou alahele e haka kai. Aye, these are not underhanded actions, nor is our course of action deceitful. This is our only way to fight.
Ai, ole.
E ike na mea ākau, ai ho'omaupopo I ko kākou palapala ho'opi'i. Everyone may see and know of our petition. O ke ia aina, no kākou no ia, ko kākou Hawaii, e o? This land is ours, our Hawaii.
Our land.
He hea, e ho'onele I ane ko kākou la hui? Shall we be deprived of our nationality? E ho'ohui I ane kākou me Amerika? Shall we be annexed to America? Aole. Mahalo.
Mahalo piha. Mahalo piha. O Velina me ke aloha. Ka ua. O Abigail, ku ai he lani.
At this time, the minister introduced...
Alanui, wahine alanui, my pini pini. Ai, Mrs. James Campbell.
She spoke with pleasant smiles, and the men and women stamped in approval and cheered. She spoke only a few words, filled with hope. Sometimes she spoke as if she were persuading them all to trust her with sincerity and a gentleness of voice as she leaned forward and said,
E kupa'a e ku'umau ho aloha. Stand firm, my friends. O ke aloha I ka aina. He mea nui ya oi a mea a'u. Mamua o na mea a'apau.
Aye.
Love for the land is more important to you and me than anything else.
Yo.
E koa, e ikaika, e vivo ole me ka ho'o manawa nui. Be brave, be strong, be fearless and steadfast. Our time will come. E hiki mai ana ko kākova, e kakao inoa ai I ke ia palapala ho'opi'i. Na koe I aloha ya Hawaii. Sign your names to this petition, you people who love Hawaii.
Ai.
E hiala e kakao I inoa ana. How many indeed will sign?
Ai.
She waved her gloved hands as she spoke, and immediately hundreds of waving hands were turned to her. Dark hands with short fingers and worn fingernails. They showed poverty and work of contact with the land they claimed.
He mea kakao nupepa e a iane. E olelo aku yaya I ko oko mana'o. Alaila, I ke mai na Amerika. Alaila, malia o ho'olohe mai rako.
What is it? What did she say?
Here's a writer for the newspaper. She says to the people, tell her your dreams, and America will know and perhaps they will listen.
And at this time, something amazing happened. The men and women all stood up one by one and spoke a few words of faith.
My opinion. This is my feeling. I love my land, and I want to be independent from now until forever.
This is the land where I was born, and I love it just like the Americans love theirs. Would he really want to be annexed to another larger land?
I am strongly opposed to annexation. How dare the Americans rob our people of independence? I want the American government to do the correct thing. America helped to overthrow Lilo Kalani. She must be restored. We will never consent to annexation.
Let them see their wrongdoings and restore the queen. If the great nations were fair, they would not take our land. I would never consent to annexation.
See you, America. I don't want annexation. I want my beloved queen.
That's because she is a good woman. She is a Christian, honest person,
Orale.
and good child.
I am opposed to annexation. Me and my entire family.
People
behind me, they cannot enter their heart, they cannot speak. They told me to say, no annexation, never.
No annexation.
I'm Kawi of Kalaloa. The place we call Hilo, Vena. Veana. Oh, excuse me. Vienna. Our group has 300 members that have been here, really oppose annexation. All of us.
Oppose annexation.
I love my land and oppose annexation. Look to America as our friend. Better not be our enemy.
I am telling you the truth. The great majority of the people on Molokai completely oppose annexation. They are fearful that if annexed to America, their land will be lost. They'll gather the benefits and the land will be put in jar.
Baron, can you be number 10? 10.
I am a mail carrier. Come to my district and I will show you 2,000 Hawaiians who are opposed to annexation.
Let us stand, all of us. Let us honor our flag. Let us sing to our flag. Hawaii Pono'i. After you,
Kila kila I ka wau ka I ko I ka ua. Ua hine I hoa pili no paua kalani. Nui a kuau, ke kai hone o ka wehewe. O he no I taua, ka pua kea, hai a mololani te wehi wehi. I no he ai ka lai, o hau ola, ola ka wahine no I tai tapu ana kupunai. Le ia ko wehi hano hano, liliu, o lolo kui ke kapu. Hey no lili o kalani.
E mai Hawaii, o Hawaii nui a kea. E mai loko mai o ka po. Puka mai o ka moku, puka mai o ka aina. Ka lalani aina o nuu mea e. Ka pae aina I kukuru o Tahiti.
No Hawaii nui a kea.
No Hawaii nui a kea la e. No Hawaii nui a ke ano hei noa e. Ano o Maui, he moku he aina. Nā kama o Kamalala, walu e noho. Nā kuru ai ea, o mea he kane. Nā hina nui a lana no he wahine. Loa a moloka I he aku, he kahuna e. He pualena no ia o nuu mea e. Kumai ke ali'i, kumai e kalani. Karuku ai e anola o Tahiti. Loa ala na'i, he keiki ho o kama. Na ke au kana I nana I moe aku e. He ke a kapuno o ia o uluhina e. No Hawaii nui a ke a e. No Hawaii nui a ke ano hei noa e. Hanau ka ho o lawe, hanau he lopa. Ki ina kuuluhina wa ki hia mai. Moku hia ka piko, I ewe o ki kamaiki. Ka I ewe la o ke keiki la ualele. I komo aku I loko ka ape na lue. Analu ape ka inalu ale e. Loa a ka malo ke kama. O molo kini ka moku he I ewe uala a. He ewe ka moku, kumai ahu kini ala a. He ali ina na mu mai ka pio kai a. Mai ka ale po ipu o karani e. Ka ale po ipu o ale ka nani e. No Hawaii nui a ke ala e. No Hawaii nui a ke ano hei noa e. Loa a o ahu, loa a he wohi. He wohi hoi ana ahu kini ala a. Nala a kapula, he kane I ala. Nala a mea a kona no he wahine. Ho ka uhua hoi loli vale. Hoi loli ka nuu poki a li e. No kai au kapu, wa kapu ya no nea. I ka uila I ka po kapu o makali'i. Hanau ka ua'i, he ali'i he kama. He puali I huhu ya I Hawaii. Na ke po o kela o na moku e. Ahora ia e kalani no e ala e. No Hawaii nui a ke ala e. No Hawaii nui a ke ano hei noa e. Holo ale na moku, holo ale I holani. I ka wewehi kapu no akalana kila kulia I ka moku moku a ka neloa ka ihe lau me kino lai pola pola nanai mahikila o nalia nanai mahikino a o nalia ke kane o analia kawahine o hanala hanau ni hau he aina no a he moku he aina no ikia Ika mole no ka aina e kolula ko ke ki hanau I ka lakahi o ni I hau me ka ula meni o e o ka makua hine o ili moku o le mai maope o ka makua hine o ka makua hine o ili moku o le mai maope no vai inuia ke ala
Talk to me, my brother, love one another. It's plain to see, this land is here for you and me. Keep Hawaiian lands in Hawaiian hands, yeah. Keep Hawaiian lands in Hawaiian hands, yeah. On the road we go, far from life we stroll.